dealing with the effects of coronavirus has cost this country, it's an understatement, a fair old chunk of change. £190 billion apparently so far. That's according to the House of Commons Library. My next guest says the Chancellor Rishi Sunak needs to hammer the national credit card even more, perhaps to the tune of £1 trillion. John Caudwell is one of Britain's best known businessmen, having founded the chain Phones for You. He joins us now. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Emma.
The government's already spent more than double the estimated cost of HS2 on dealing with coronavirus, to try and put it in terms we used to talk about. Is that enough?
No, nowhere near enough. What the government are doing are putting sticking plasters on. And that's not a critical statement, because we do need to put sticking plasters on. But the sticking plasters that we're putting on are effectively solving small problems that are short-term temporary problems, but leaving behind the major problem. And the major problem is that this country is going to suffer a drop in GDP this year of up to 15%. The amount of businesses that are going to go under as a consequence of corona are phenomenal, and the number of job losses, in my estimation, are probably going to be reaching 4 million. We won't feel that straight away because of various schemes in place, like furlough, for instance, but sooner or later, over the next maybe 4 to 5 months, the number of unemployed will be crystal clear, and the devastation to the economy will be more clear. So we really need to have a long-term plan. We don't need we do need the sticking plasters, but what we really need, in addition to the sticking plasters, is CPR. The patient is in dire need of resuscitation, and my CPR plan will recover the UK economy over the next few years. If we don't put CPR into practice, and that is something now I call Caudwell pandemic recovery.
You're doing a bit of branding there about your economic idea. I like it.
Yeah, if we don't put Caudwell pandemic recovery into place, what will happen, Emma, is that we will hemorrhage vast amounts of money over the next few years that we will have to borrow, and we'll hemorrhage that money because of huge unemployment, social assistance for people, and the reduction of revenue as a consequence of having 4 million people who we're looking after rather than them contributing to the economy. And that's before you start to really think about the social cost of depression and people feeling that they're not a valued member of society, and the riots and the difficulties that will cause. There is only one answer, and the only answer is my answer. The government have pledged 30 billion.
Have you spoken to Rishi Sunak?
I have spoken to him, yes, but not specifically on this. I spoke to him about the loan scheme for small businesses, which he gave an 80% guarantee to, and that was destined to complete and utter failure from the beginning. And fortunately, he did see that was an incorrect strategy, and then did increase his guarantee to small business loans to 100%.
But a lot of people do say, if they have been supportive, I'll caveat that, of this government, even if they perhaps haven't been supportive of everything this government has done, it is safe to say on opinion polls, Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, has become more of a household name than any other cabinet minister, and many people have praised those measures.
Yeah, and a lot of the measures I would praise also. But what we're doing at the moment is we're rowing across the Atlantic in a boat that's sprung a leak. The boat's sinking. We're bailing out the water. But sooner or later, we have to think about building the QE2. And if we don't do the building of the QE2, we'll be bailing out that water forevermore. And that'll be a fiasco for the British economy. So I do praise Rishi Sunak for a lot of the measures he's put in place. I don't agree with them all. I think, for instance, the £1,000 payment for employers to get to take their employees back on post-furlough is a ludicrous idea. So I don't support everything he's done, but I think a lot of what he's done is very sensible. It's all about stimulating the short-term problems of the economy. But what I need to see, what the UK needs to see, is a long-term business plan that will build prosperity and create jobs in the UK. And that can't be done without my CPR.
CPR being?
Caudwell Pandemic Recovery.
That's okay. So this is your idea that I presume you will be able to talk to the Chancellor. Are you still a Conservative donor?
I've only ever been a Conservative donor once, and that was in December. But you know,
well, I didn't know how. Sorry, that's genuinely my ignorance. I didn't know how it worked. So yeah, you donate, and I presume that gets you some form of conversation at some point.
I don't know whether it does or not, to be honest. You know, I'm just one voice in the wilderness. I'm probably a more important voice than many. But, you know, the government will do what it sees fit. But I can get through to government, and I will be campaigning for what I believe is absolutely right. And one of the reasons...
I'm sorry, if I may, I was just going to say, you know, talking about what we can afford to spend, I mean, inflation being low, the cost of borrowing being low, that there is fear about that changing. And, you know, and our debt now being larger than our entire economy for the first time since 1963.
Well, the debt will be bigger than the entire economy, but the debt in Japan has been bigger than the entire economy by at least double for 20 years. You know, that is not the point. The point of whether what your debt is as a proportion of the economy is not the measure. What is the measure is the affordability. And because interest rates are virtually zero and negative in some parts of the world, and are going to remain in that way because there's no option with the depression that's facing the world economy, interest rates will remain low. That does mean that borrowing is extremely affordable, but you've got to then use that borrowing in a really intelligent, productive way to invest in jobs, to invest in business creation, to invest in apprenticeships, to invest in infrastructure, to invest in inward investment from businesses that are currently focused in other countries. We've got to create prosperity in Britain. We've got to create jobs. We don't throw this money that I'm talking about borrowing at the man in the street. Some of that needs to get through to him because he's suffering. And also they need to be spending money to generate and to keep the current businesses running. But where we need to spend the vast majority of the money is on creating new employment for all of those millions that are going to be unemployed so that they can contribute to society, so that they can build up government revenue through taxes and VAT, and so that they have a sense of purpose in life and not just that they're thrown onto the dole queues with no hope.
Let's just talk about tax. You mentioned it there, if I may. The former Conservative Chancellor, Philip Hammond, at the weekend said the government shouldn't rule out a wealth tax to repair the damage caused by the coronavirus. Wealth taxes usually levy an annual charge on the combined value of a person's property, investments and other possessions, I don't know, like fine art or something. What do you make of that, and what's your view?
Well, it's another gnat on an elephant's backside, really, like a lot of the measures that are coming into place now. You know, if you tax the rich, and I'm not against the rich paying more tax, you know, I've already paid all my taxes for the last 15, 20 years. I've pledged 70% of my money to charity when I die. I don't mind paying a little bit more tax, but the point is that there's a lot of people out there that will do. And what we can't do is drive wealthy job creators onto foreign shores. So that is a very, very delicate political question. I don't mind it, but it won't work. And even if it worked, you're talking of about a few billion, where actually we need hundreds of billions. This is not a time to be scratching around in the dirt for crumbs. This is a time to be brave. There's never been a time like this ever before where the whole world is under siege economically, and where the conditions have been so ripe to borrow money, invest it and create wealth.
You've been I was just going to say, you've been very clear there about, you know, you'd be happy to do it. You have been on record about how much tax you've paid before. But there you have the concern about what it would do to some of the wealth creators. If you're a betting man, I'm not saying you are, but if you were a betting man, do you think he'll do a wealth tax, the Chancellor?
No, because I think they'll realise that it would be more negative in the long term than positive. It would stop foreign inward investment. It would stop rich people coming to the UK shores, and it would drive wealthy UK people abroad to places like Monaco, where you've got a beautiful environment and the mountains there for the skiing and the sea. I mean, why wouldn't people go there anyway?